Morning Glory host Matty Johns, all thanks to New Tech. New Tech, our mission is to optimise your business with automation. Matthew, how are you, mate?
Sure, missile. How are you, lads?
We're going great, mate. What are you doing today? What's coming up tonight on the show?
Well, mate, we've got plenty on tonight. Just so many massive games over the course of the weekend. I mean, you said before, mate, South and the Roosters will be enormous. And you've got Newcastle Newcastle Dogs. You just talked about that'll be something special. And of course, you've got Manly. Manly going up against the Melbourne Storm. Penrith with Nathan Cleary back. There's just so much going on in the game at the moment. And I heard you talking about I was going to say Preston Campbell, but Jacob Preston, man, that kid, mate, he's just so impressive. But on the field, he's always been, his first couple of seasons, you could see he was a terrific player and had leadership qualities. But this year, he's just gone to another level. You see this sometimes where guys, there's the realisation of potential and they go from being a very good player to suddenly a great player, and he's on his way there. You can see that. Ball players traditionally, they say about playmakers, if they can hold their body intact, get better as they get closer to 30, because, it's a bit of, mate, there's a science to ball playing. Well, it's the same with operating with ball players, is that, it's, you come into grade and you learn the nuances of playmakers and how to hit the right half of the hole, all those things. And that's been the next level in his game, the ability to work with his playmakers.
If I gave you an over-under 18 months for Jacob Preston to debut for the Blues, what are you taking?
It'll be, I think, within 18 months. It would not surprise me. I mean, we're very strong in the back row. But half an opportunity to put him in, I reckon Loz will give him a go. There's a few really good young blokes in the game at the moment that I think it'll come through in the next couple of years. The bloke who I would have put in, I'm trying to think what it was, boys. There was a player, one of our centres was in doubt last year, and they were contemplating who they're going to put in. At that point, I would have really considered putting Bronson Xerri in. Fair dinkum, mate. He's ready to be picked now.
Yep.
He's a powerhouse. He's a great finisher. He's a good defender, but he just works his ass off in yardage. There's nothing surer that he's a State of Origin player.
Matty, that left-hand side for Canterbury since Sherry's been there, you basically don't score there.
They're good.
Mate, they are good. You just basically don't score there.
And the good thing about it too, Joel, is that when Burton's there, I mean, Burton, when he was originally in the six, as we know, it took a while to get himself going. I could see in himself when you take a bloke from the outside backs and you put him into six, and as much as you say just run the ball, they can't help themselves. They feel like they've got to push the side around the park. Having kick out and Bronson Xerri outside him has allowed him to play very decisively. If there's space for him in front, take him on. Otherwise, just feed those blokes early.
Tonight on Fox League, after the game, they'll go straight to the Matty Johns show. And I dare say this is going to be a topic, whether because it's blown up or conversely it hasn't. This is the head-high crackdown. Matty, have you got a view on this?
I support the head-high crackdown.
Yeah, I do too.
I support it. And there's a couple of things, right? There's the rusted on people that go, that's ridiculous, the game's getting soft. Well, it's not getting soft. It's getting tougher and tougher all the time. It's a different type of toughness. But the one I want, just consider this for a second. The game, I think, is, even throw in the Tina Turner campaigns and everything, there is, I think at the moment, there is so much interest in rugby league from the female audience. Now, I've thought to myself before, and I thought of this last year at Magic Round, because there were so many women and young girls walking in and around Brisbane with their club colours on. Right now, 10 years ago, you saw very few, well, a lot less of that, and it makes you think, right? What are the things that have brought the female audience to the game? Well, a standout one, an obvious one, is NRLW, because it's no longer viewed as just a male sport. Like, the young girls watch and say, mate, I want to be Millie Boyle one day, so on and so forth. Secondly, the change of the rules have made the game more exciting. It's advantage to the attack, which brings people in. People like to watch exciting football. But the third one, don't underestimate the fact that there has been a heavy crackdown on foul play. and there's been HIA protocols put in so that women or mothers will look at the game and allow their kids to play and not look at rugby league like it's a thug sport, like a lot of women used to, and there'll probably be some that still do. But these crackdowns, right, and on head-high tackles and the want to make the game safer and cleaner, right, don't underestimate the effect that has had on our audience. There is no doubt.
Hey, Matty, what do you think about this, right? I quite like what the rugby union do, and I'd love you, Missile, to contribute here too. So what the rugby union often do is, it's very hard for a referee. They're adjudicating on so many things. So what they quite often do is throw a yellow card out. So the yellow card, the player gets marched for whatever reason. In this case, it might be a head-eye. And then the bunker has time to review it properly whilst the referee's still marching on with the game, and they can then upgrade it to a red card. Do you like that or not?
Yeah, I do like that. I think that's very good. I think it's very civilised.
Yeah, I reckon tonight, if ever there was a bad time for crackdowns for Ricky Stewart and his Raiders, coming off a loss, back home in Canberra, give me a Corey Horsburgh, give me a Joe Tapane, give me a Josh Papali'i. There's a 10 in the bin for sure tonight. Oh, for sure. Over-unders 2 10 in the bins tonight from Raiders.
Really?
I reckon. What do you reckon, Matty?
Well, it'll be an interesting game tonight. One thing about the Raiders, Missile, is that, mate, they're a fast team. When they played in Vegas, they got so many. They're just about the fastest team in the comp, but they've all got footwork. Just that basic fundamental that makes a player so hard to defend. And you look at Tarpany, and Big Papa has still got it. When they get marched to the line, that late little piece of footwork makes them so difficult to handle. It's why it's an interesting game tonight, fellas. I don't know exactly where both these sides sit. Now, it's only early in the season, but I honestly think this is a big game for the Sharks as well. The jury's out on me as far as Cronulla is concerned. I'm not seeing a significant improvement from last year. Like, there's been a few times this year, let's look at Vegas. They had an opportunity there to beat Penrith and weren't able to do it. They came back, they had a good performance against the Cowboys. South Sydney, first half was as good as they've played. Second half, they completely clocked off and took the foot off the pedal. And it's that lack of killer. Right, that was said at the time. That's that lack of killer instinct. Whereas they go the next week and they're coming up against the Bulldogs, right? And the Bulldogs go, right, we're just going to take it to them physically. Bulldogs had a couple of key players out. We're just going to take it to them physically and we're going to win with aggressive defence. And that's how they beat the Sharks. Right? Premiership sides can't be bullied like that. And the Dogs did it last week to Cronulla.
For the White Lotus fans, which Matthew is one, are you suggesting the Sharks are the Gaytok of rugby league?
They're very, yes.
A bit soft.
Well, a bit nice.
I think that they can be just a little bit nice. They just need a bit of shit on their liver. Like when they had South down by that amount of points, they should have come out the second half and just said, mate, we're going to put 50 on these blokes. We're just going to blitz them and enjoy it. And I've said this numerous times on the podcast. Back in the day, this is what made the Canberra Raiders in the Green Machine era, and particularly in 94, that's why it was such a miserable experience playing against those blokes. Because they could be beating you 30-0 at half-time. And they come out of the sheds after half-time and they go harder on you. They wanted to beat you 60-0. That's what premiership sides do.
If we're going to stick with White Lotus sayings, Joel, should we say then that Canberra are like the Patrick Schwarzeneggers, the slightly incestuous?
You said that, Missile.
What about some of the scenes on White Lotus this year? Old fella with the old fella he laid back and the Morton stock sort of flung out a little bit. And there was another one, mate. Of course, the monologue from our man. What was his name?
Frank.
Yeah, the railing talk.
Yeah,
all that
Frank.
stuff, mate. That was one of the great monologues of all time. And then, of course, the one that was a little bit alarming was the old handy. There's I went through a mile of things. It's the only way to describe it.
Oh, no. He's in Australia at the moment, actually. That bloke.
Yeah, he is.
Young Schwarzenegger.
I'll have to give him a call. Take him out.
Hey, just back to this game, right? So you're right, because at the moment, the Dogs are undefeated, and then you've got 7 teams on 6 points. Canberra and Sharks both on 4. So basically half of those teams at least are probably going to win this weekend. Therefore, now you've got a lot of people on 8 points and the loser of this stuck on 4. You are in the shite, the loser of this game tonight, Matthew.
Yep, the competition's going to be that tight. You don't want to be dropping at any point through the season dropping, 3 games in a row, and this is why we're looking at teams like we're looking at the Dolphins and Parramatta. But I think Parramatta, we can agree you can see it's going to be a tough season. I know Mitch Moses is coming back, but you can just see a lot of rookies in the side. They are on the build again. But the Dolphins, I expected so much more from the Dolphins this year. I saw them sneaking into the 8. If they don't turn this around fast, their season's going to be gone. And it's really surprised me that how much they've struggled in attack. Their attack is hopelessly sideways. And I looked at a couple of aerial shots of them playing the other night, and they were working from alongside. And Herbie Farnworth was standing. He was the far left centre. He's standing at the far post. Now there's only one way for Herbie to go, and that is sideways for 45 degrees. Now, all night, if you watch that game again against the Broncos, all night, Tony Staggs was able to defend inside out all night, which is the easiest form of defence. Only once did they challenge him on his inside shoulder, and he went straight through. So it's that lack of recognition as well that really concerns me about the Dolphins.
What about the the exits of Wayne Bennett? Like, they get up for Wayne, and then when he leaves, it's
disastrous.
a bit like the substitute teacher comes in and everyone starts taking a piss.
Joel, it's the environment he sets. It's the magic of Wayne is Wayne. And I run into young Jamie Humphries the other day, who's beautiful young bloke, champion kid, lives in and around Collaroy here. And I said, mate, congratulations. And he said, Matty, it's just, mate, playing under Wayne Bennett. He said, I just love it. He was smiling. He just said, from the moment I got there, he said, all the players have made me feel welcome. He said, it's a happy club. And he said, there's just no mind games with Wayne. No. There's no mind games. He tells you where you stand. He said, Matty, we have stuff all meetings. If we do have a meeting, it goes 15 minutes. And he said, it's the greatest environment I've been involved in.
Yeah, wow. You know what? I probably thought the time was going to come where, like, Jack Gibson eventually, apparently at the Sharks, wasn't anywhere near his best. And I thought, at what stage does this happen to Wayne? Well, it clearly hasn't at this point. Hey, there is going to clearly be an escalation in sin bins. Vossi was talking about on his show, it's a very good point, that the game has increased dramatically time in play. So therefore, 10 minutes today is a far greater punishment because it's not being wasted on scrums. It had me thinking, right, so this could potentially blow up, but I'm equally supportive of it too, and litigation probably plays a major part down the track. But the punishment now for a 10 is so significant, and the coaching for teams, they just skin you. If your player's short, they just get you every time. What would you think about this, Matty, that the moment the other team scores a try, have you then served your punishment? So should you be able to come back on then? Is 10 minutes too much of a punishment these days?
Joel, it is. Well, it's a big punishment. Sometimes I think the 10 minutes is, it should be 10 minutes, but there's, there's a lot to throw into that. Like, you might have a guy who's just laid on the ruck a little bit longer. Well, that doesn't deserve 10 minutes. But you get other forms of foul play and whatnot, and you say, well, that does deserve it. When I grew up in the game, when Simbin first came in, I was about 8 years old, and I remember it, is that, a player would get marched out, and some players would get 10 minutes. The next minute, a bloke would be Simbin, he gets 5. And then it actually opened a whole can of worms. People say, well, hang on, why did you get 5 minutes? Why did you get 10? All that stuff. But I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. I think they should have a look at it.
Because back in our day, not so much the teams I played with, Matthew, but certainly your teams, it wasn't unusual to defend for 10 minutes and to not have them score on you. But these days, it's almost always you're being scored on, aren't you? Well,
the thing about it is, Joel, is when we used to play against 12 blokes, the first thing you do is, you send the ball to the middle of the field because, you're working on equations, and if you push the ball into the middle of the field, you get a 5-5 split and you get 2 markers and a fullback. To give you the idea of how significant it is, If one player's sent off, and it's common sense, you just move the ball to 50 and you get a 5-4 split. So straight away, you don't have to work for numerical advantage. Just away you go. And when you're playing against those top sides, some of those great attacking players like Nathan Cleary and so on, you're right, they just skin you. You're gone.
Hey, final question, Matty. How do you expect this Daly Cherry-Evans fallout to affect Manly against the Melbourne Storm? Do they go to a new gear, or does it completely break them?
I reckon if they're going to be affected by it, I reckon it'll be this game. But Manly are a different beast. I've seen with Manly before go through a lot of drama, be able to shrug it off and win competitions. We've seen it with Des before. Look, it didn't affect Daly this last week. I don't really expect for him personally be affected, but it might have some sort of effect on some of the other the blokes in the team, some of the younger fellas. But tough one coming up against Melbourne Storm, coming off a loss, but they do have a good record there against Melbourne.
Good on you, Matty. We're going to talk about this story that's dropped just now. Manly to hold crisis talks with Channel 9 over Daly Cherry-Evans on-air bombshell, writes Bedell and Main through the Courier Mail. So we'll get to that shortly. Good on you, Matty. Have a good night.
Good on you, lads.